think I had an experience kind of reflecting what you just said. I read, right after I signed up, I read the essay about non-duality, and I was very focused. And
which essay was?
I think it's on the website. It's called About. It's like under the About
okay,
section.
yes.
And at one point it said there is only one consciousness, and or something to that effect. And I really felt like, I mean, I can talk about this stuff right now, and it's just words, but the experience was, I felt like I zoomed right to this experience that there's a point of perception, there is a perceiver, and there's really only one perceiver, and that everything else is perceived. And it felt like the one perceiver was the only thing that was real, and all the perceived was not real. And it wasn't pleasant at all. It was very frightening. All time, all history, my wife, my kids, everything was a dream, was, the perceived. And again, these are, I can talk about it now because I'm back, and I had this huge spike of fear, and that brought me back too. And my heart was pounding, and I'm thinking, okay, good, I'm glad to be back where there's me and you're real, and all these people are real, because...
Well, I'm afraid during this retreat we're going to go all the way back to that place.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking, is this... I can't imagine I'm the only person to have this experience, but it was very off-putting, and it reminded me of what you said about, how that your false self is going to fight hard.
Okay, so that's fine. So in this retreat we're going to go back to that place, but we're going to go back slowly and consciously, without fear.
I guess the fear was big, and...
Yes, the fear was big because everything you had previously invested your identity in was crumbling away. In fact, it crumbled away very, very quickly. You were just, all the apparent solidity of these objects, your wife, your family, you realized in this moment something about what you were reading triggered this understanding in yourself that they were not real in the way you had previously considered them to be.
Neither was I.
And this was like it was left, nor were you, nor was what you considered to be I real. And it was like all these things that you've been holding on to and investing your security in, you suddenly had to let go of them, and you were free falling, exactly, without anything to hold on to, and that's very frightening.
It was, yeah.
Yeah. So that's what we do in these meetings. We just start with how things seem to be, and we just gradually, through our meditations and contemplations and conversations, we trace our way back to the reality of our experience. And at various different stages on this journey back, we meet obstacles, and people meet different obstacles, and everyone traces their own particular pathway back. And people meet different obstacles at different stages. So that in our conversations we address these various obstacles. What is an obstacle for one person is very often shared between a number of other people, but it's not necessarily everybody's obstacle. And then somebody else will find an obstacle on the path and will mention it, and 4 or 5 other people will think, oh yeah, there's a similar kind of boulder in the middle of my path as well. And so we just encounter all these obstacles gently, taking time until we see they're not really obstacles, and then we just carry on. So, for instance, with you, take the current perception that you're having now, the current visual perception, and that perception is of objects. Yeah, a collection of objects, people, objects. So instead of following your attention towards the objects, trace it back in the other direction. Go backwards towards the source of perception rather than the object perceived. What do you find there?
I know what I'm afraid to find. I guess I'm stuck on that.
No, but just trace back your experience. Take the experience of perception. The objects are on one end, yeah, the end out there. What is on the other end of your attention? Trace it back. Don't think about it. Don't refer to what you've read or what you know or what you're afraid of. Trace it back, like walking physically along a path. It's that experiential. Trace it back to the source of your attention or perception. What do you find there? Exactly. That's what you call I. You don't find anything. You don't find anything. You don't find a body, or a mind, or a world. But nevertheless, your experience of that is absolutely real. Perception is taking place. Objects are on one end of it. What is on the other end?
I call that the perceiver, but I guess
It's the perceiver. But if you ask what is that perceiver, you don't find anything.
right. It's a point, which is nothing.
It's a point, but in fact, it's not even a point. A point is the best the mind can do.
Right. It's an idea. Right. Okay.
The mind is struggling to call it something. So in its own language of objectivity, it says it's a point. You're right. It's a point. But actually, to go a little further, it's a point that has no dimensions.
Points don't have dimensions. That's exactly right.
Exactly.
And not even in time. Not even in fourth dimension.
Exactly. You're absolutely right. It has no dimension in time or space. It's a dimensionless point. Now, go back to what you are perceiving. Doesn't it all appear in that dimensionless point?
I can't honestly say I know the difference, so I could say yes.
The difference between
it being separate, a point and the perceiving.
Exactly. That's the next stage. It's not this apparent world of four dimensions is not only appearing in. First of all, it appears to that dimensionless point. The dimensionless point seems to be on one end,
Right.
and the four-dimensional world on the other end. And then we realize, no, it's closer than that. It's appearing in. This four-dimensional reality is appearing in this dimensionless empty point. But you're right, it's even more than that. The only substance present in this four-dimensional world of time and space is this dimensionless, empty, aware point. That's the stuff it's made of. As a concession to the vastness of physical space, the teaching sometimes says awareness is vast. In other words, it's even bigger than the physical world because it contains the physical world. The teaching says awareness is vast or borderless. Awareness is not vast or borderless. It's dimensionless. It has no dimensions. But the mind cannot think of no dimensions. So as a concession to the mind, the teaching says it is vast. It is everlasting. It is neither vast nor everlasting. The mind literally cannot go there. That's why it's not possible to think about consciousness. My first teacher, the Shantananda Saraswati, the Shankaracharya of the north of India, said once, real thinkers don't think. Real thinkers, the people that really take thought all the way, that think about the absolute reality of experience, that activity of exploring reality with the mind brings the mind to an end. It is not possible to think of consciousness. The best we could do would be to think of a blank, empty space. But even that is a subtle object, a blank object. If we truly try to think of consciousness, thought comes to an end, and consciousness stands revealed.
I'm thinking, my conundrum was nothing was real, and that was terrifying. And then it feels like the counter to that is everything is real.
Absolutely. Nothing is real in the way it is normally conceived. The world is an illusion. Only Brahman is real. Brahman is the world.
But everything in there is also real too, because it's part of Brahman.
But that's it. The world as we normally think of it, our experience as we normally think of it, made out of stuff called mind and matter. That's what most people think. Experience is divided into two parts. Thoughts and feelings are made out of mind. Sensations and perceptions, the body and the world, are made out of matter. That's the conventional view. So, the first stage, the world is an illusion. The experience as we normally think of it, as made out of mind and matter, is an illusion. What is really real, what is true in our experience, is just the experience of being aware. That is all that we are ever aware of, the knowing of experience, Brahman. Then when we go back to this body and world, the body-mind world that we found to be unreal, when we go back to all of this, we find out, wow, it is real, my experience is real, but it's not made out of stuff called mind or matter. It's made out of this infinite, dimensionless stuff called pure knowing. In that sense, it is real. It is real as consciousness, but unreal as mind and matter.
Thank you.
And it's not a coincidence. Apologies to those of you that have heard me say this before. It's not a coincidence that physicists have never found this stuff called matter, and psychiatrists have never found the stuff called mind. It's not a coincidence. It's not just a matter of a few more years before someone discovers it. They're not going to discover it. It's not there. So this understanding could generate the most terrific fear in you, because the world is just everything that you considered to be so real, everything that you invested your identity and your happiness in is just vanishing in front of your eyes. But the same understanding can be a source of such profound joy and love. Because nothing of value is being taken away from you. At the level of activities and relationships, family relationships, intimate relationships, friendships, all that is being taken away is the tyranny of the ego that ruined those relationships, that made them battlegrounds between egos. That's all you're going to lose. And a relationship, be it an intimate relationship, a relationship with a dog or a family or a neighbor, or a relationship that is free of the tyranny of the ego, is a tender, loving, warm-hearted, humorous, friendly relationship.
Fearless.